At first glance, it looked like just another holiday season, but fans quickly realized something about this one didn't match the past. As Christmas 2025 approached, online audiences began noticing subtle changes in how British singer Lucy Thomas was spending the holiday season. For an artist long associated with traditional, home-centered celebrations in the UK, her presence in the United States during Christmas prompted quiet curiosity rather than loud headlines. There were no major announcements, no press releases, and no formal statements explaining the change. Instead, the shift revealed itself gradually through appearances, posts, and performances that suggested this holiday carried different meaning than those before it. From a news perspective, what stood out most was not where Lucy was, but how understated everything appeared. In an era where holiday content is often heavily promoted, this Christmas unfolded with minimal fanfare. Yet engagement around her name increased rather than declined. Viewers commented on how the season felt more reflective, more intentional, and noticeably different in tone. Analysts who follow digital music trends noted that the lack of spectacle may have contributed to stronger emotional responses, rather than weakening attention. Importantly, there was no indication of controversy or disruption, only a shift in atmosphere. Observers pointed out that this quieter approach aligned with Lucy's long-standing image, but also marked a step away from predictability. The combination of tradition and change created a sense that something new was happening, even if it wasn't being openly discussed. And as the holiday continued, it became increasingly clear that this Christmas would not pass unnoticed. When an artist known for staying close to home chooses to cross an ocean in December, people naturally begin asking why. Lucy Thomas spending Christmas in America was not framed as a career move, but it drew attention nonetheless. Historically, the holiday season has been a period where she emphasized familiarity, family settings, traditional music, and settings closely tied to her British roots. That pattern made her U.S. presence noteworthy, especially given the timing. Music industry observers often note that artists are most cautious during the holidays, making this deviation particularly interesting. From a reporting standpoint, there was no evidence suggesting relocation or permanent change. However, the timing aligned with growing interest from American audiences, many of whom had recently discovered her work through shared clips and reaction content. This overlap raised reasonable questions about whether the trip was personal, professional, or a combination of both. What mattered most, though, was that Lucy did not frame the visit as a major milestone. Instead, it appeared as a quiet continuation of her journey. Audience response reflected that restraint. Rather than speculation escalating into rumor, discussion stayed measured. Fans focused on how her environment influenced the mood of her performances, rather than assuming intent. This reaction suggests a level of trust between artist and audience that is not always present online. And as Christmas drew closer, that trust would be reinforced by what came next. Without promotion or build-up, one Christmas performance began appearing everywhere. During the holiday week, a single Christmas performance by Lucy Thomas began circulating widely across platforms. There was no official campaign behind it, yet engagement grew steadily. The performance itself was simple, minimal instrumentation, controlled vocals, and an unhurried pace. From a journalistic lens, the significance lay not in technical novelty, but in audience reaction. Comments emphasized sincerity, calm, and emotional clarity, words not commonly associated with viral music content. Music analysts often point out that holiday performances are plentiful and rarely stand out. This one did, largely because it avoided excess. Viewers described it as grounded and refreshing, suggesting fatigue with overproduced seasonal content. The performance resonated particularly with first-time listeners in the U.S., many of whom expressed surprise at discovering her work so late. What's notable is that the performance didn't redefine Lucy's image, it reinforced it. Yet its reach expanded her audience at a moment when attention is usually fragmented. From a news perspective, This indicates a shift in how organic reach still plays a role, even in highly competitive digital spaces. And as attention increased, so did interest in the context surrounding the performance. The most talked about moments weren't on stage, they were off it. Alongside her musical appearances, glimpses of Lucy Thomas' holiday environment emphasized family and simplicity. These moments were not framed as exclusive content or promotional material. Instead, they appeared naturally, reinforcing a narrative of balance rather than ambition. For fans accustomed to curated celebrity holidays, this approach felt unusually sincere. From a reporting angle, this reinforced why the Christmas period resonated so strongly. There was no attempt to convert personal moments into spectacle. Analysts noted that this restraint likely strengthened public perception, particularly among older audiences and families. It also aligned with Lucy's long-standing reputation, suggesting continuity rather than reinvention. In a time when artists often blur personal and professional boundaries for visibility, Lucy's Christmas stood out for maintaining that separation. This choice may explain why engagement felt less reactive and more reflective. And while no statements were made about future plans, the tone of the season suggested a period of personal grounding, something audiences rarely get to witness authentically. Something about this Christmas connected differently across the Atlantic. Data from comment sections and reaction channels showed a noticeable increase in American engagement during and after Christmas 2025. Many viewers described discovering Lucy Thomas for the first time through her holiday performance. What resonated was not cultural novelty, but emotional universality. Themes of calm, reflection, and warmth translated easily, regardless of background. Industry observers often note that U.S. audiences respond strongly to authenticity, particularly during the holidays. Lucy's understated presence matched that expectation. Rather than positioning herself as a seasonal headliner, she appeared as a storyteller. This distinction helped her content stand out organically. From a news perspective, the significance lies in timing. Holiday exposure often fades quickly, but post-Christmas engagement suggested lasting interest. Viewers began exploring her earlier work, indicating that the season served as an entry point rather than a peak. And that pattern raised further discussion about where her career momentum might be heading. No announcements were made, but small details didn't go unnoticed. As Christmas concluded, attentive fans began pointing out subtle changes. New collaborators mentioned casually, different phrasing when discussing upcoming projects, and a slightly more forward-looking tone in interviews and posts. None of these elements confirmed a specific direction, but together they created a sense of transition. From a journalistic standpoint, it's important to note that curiosity did not escalate into rumor. Instead, discussions remained cautious. Observers framed these clues as signs of growth rather than disruption. That distinction matters, especially in an online environment where speculation often overtakes facts. What became clear was that Lucy Thomas was allowing space for interpretation without fueling it. This measured approach maintained credibility while keeping audiences engaged. And as conversations continued, attention turned toward the broader significance of the season. Some moments don't announce their importance, they reveal it over time. Looking back, Christmas 2025 appears less like a singular event and more like a marker. It combined personal grounding, expanded reach, and quiet evolution without forcing a narrative. From a news perspective, that combination is rare. Most turning points are defined retroactively, and this one may be no exception. Lucy Thomas did not redefine herself during the holidays. Instead, she reinforced what audiences already valued, while subtly expanding where and how that value was recognized. The result was a season that felt meaningful without being overstated. And as discussions continue into the new year, one conclusion stands out. Sometimes the moments that resonate most aren't the loudest. They're the ones that allow people to feel something and remember it long after the season ends.